The Vought News Network banner burned bright across every screen. Live. Breaking. Unidentified event over New York. On a sunny afternoon, the sky above the city split open like someone had cut it with a blade. People froze on sidewalks. Cars drifted into each other at slow speed. A tourist dropped a hot dog and did not even look down. Everyone looked up. The tear in the clouds was not smoke. It was not a storm. It was a clean, sharp hole in the air, glowing purple at the edges. Wind rushed toward it, pulling dust and loose paper upward. Then something fell out. It was not a meteor. It was smooth and round and polished like a metal pearl. It moved slowly, like it had decided gravity was optional. It hovered over the street, steady and calm, while the city screamed below it. A police helicopter swung in close. Its camera zoomed hard. The image shook. The pearl opened. A small figure floated out, feet never touching the air. White skin, purple plates on his head and shoulders. A long tail that moved like it had a mind of its own. His face looked almost friendly. Almost. He smiled down at the world, as if he had arrived early to a meeting. Soldiers in a nearby convoy shouted orders. People ran. Someone fired the first shot. It was panic. It was always panic. The bullet hit the air near the floating figure and simply stopped. It hung there for a heartbeat, spinning like a toy. The figure turned his head, curious, like a man watching a fly bump into a window. He lifted one finger. The bullet dropped straight down and clicked against the pavement. More shots came. Then heavier weapons. Then a rocket streaked up from the far end of the street, loud enough to rattle windows. The figure did not dodge. He looked bored. The rocket stopped in midair, as if it had run into an invisible wall. Its flames still burned, but it could not move forward. He flicked his finger to the side. The rocket drifted away like a balloon cut loose. It sailed over the river and exploded far from the city. A bright bloom that made everyone on the waterfront scream again. He finally spoke, and the microphones of 100 cameras caught it. "Is this your greeting?" his voice asked, light and smooth, as if he was teasing. He rose higher, above the street, above the rooftops, until he was a small shape against the torn sky. Then he did something worse than destroying a building. He showed control. A thin purple beam slipped from his fingertip and traced a neat line across several blocks. It did not roar. It did not shake the earth. It simply erased what it touched. The tops of buildings vanished. A bridge support vanished. The air filled with dust and a rolling wave of heat. He stopped before the beam could hit a crowded avenue. He had chosen where to stop. People understood that. They felt it in their bones. He wanted them alive, not because he cared, because he wanted them scared. On the live feed, the anchor's voice cracked. Vought. Vought is deploying the 7. Red and blue streak dropped out of the sky. Homelander landed in the middle of the street with the confidence of a man who expected applause even during a disaster. His cape settled behind him. He looked up at the floating stranger with a bright, practiced smile. His eyes did not smile. "Okay," Homelander called, voice loud, friendly for the cameras. "This is my city. This is my planet. You're going to come down here, and you're going to explain what you are." The stranger floated lower, just enough that his face was clear on the broadcast. His smile widened. "What I am," he repeated. How rude. No introduction. No proper title. Homelander's jaw tightened. "I'm not playing games." The stranger tilted his head. "Neither am I." Homelander rose into the air, fast, like a missile. He went straight at the stranger's face, because Homelander always believed the first hit was the only one that mattered. He never even touched him. In the feed, there was a blink of motion, too quick for the camera to track. Then Homelander stopped midair, arms spread slightly, like a puppet whose strings had been pulled tight. His eyes went wide. The stranger was behind him now, one hand lifted, palm open, as if he was holding Homelander in place with invisible pressure. Homelander's cape fluttered. He strained. His muscles shook. Nothing moved except his fear. The stranger leaned close to Homelander's ear, and the microphones caught the soft words anyway. "Who owns this planet?" he asked gently. Homelander swallowed. The city watched its god hesitate. The stranger drifted back, letting Homelander go. Homelander shot backward, not in attack, but in a reflexive retreat, trying to hide the fact that his heart was racing. The stranger turned to the cameras again, like he had finished a warm-up. "Tell your leaders," he said. "I will be meeting them, immediately." His smile stayed in place, as the sky above him continued to tear. And for the first time in years, Homelander looked small on live television. Ashley Barrett's hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold her phone. In the Vought Tower crisis room, everyone spoke at once. Lawyers, PR, security. A man from analytics who kept saying the word engagement like it was a prayer. Homelander stood at the far end of the room, arms crossed, face stiff. His smile was gone. He stared at a blank wall like he could burn the memory out of his head if he looked hard enough. Ashley tried to sound in charge. Her voice came out thin anyway. "We need a statement. We need to control the message. We need to survive," someone whispered. Nobody laughed. Stan Edgar sat at the table like he was waiting for a delayed flight. Calm. Still. Eyes sharp. He watched the room the way a man watched a chessboard. "Sit," Edgar said. It was quiet enough that everyone heard him, even Homelander. Ashley sat. Others followed like they had been trained. Edgar folded his hands. "The question is not what we tell the public." Ashley blinked fast. "It's not?" "The question," Edgar continued, "is what he wants, and what he will do when he does not get it." A scientist spoke up, desperate to be useful. "Maybe he's a soup, an unknown, Edgar's eyes moved to the screen, paused on the alien's smiling face. "That is not a soup," Homelander snapped, too sharp. "He's something, and I can handle it." Edgar did not look at him right away. That made it worse. When Edgar finally met Homelander's eyes, his tone stayed even. "Can you?" Homelander's nostrils flared. He said nothing. Ashley felt her stomach drop. If Homelander could not handle it, then nobody could. The door opened. A security chief leaned in, pale. "He's outside." Ashley's breath caught. "Outside the building?" "Yes," the man said. "Midair, front entrance." Edgar stood. He straightened his suit like he was about to speak at a conference. "Then we greet him." Ashley's voice went high. "We greet him?" Edgar looked at her. "We are Vought. We do not panic. We negotiate." Homelander moved first, stalking out as if he was going to prove something. Ashley hurried behind Edgar because running away would look like weakness, and weakness got people fired. In the lobby, security teams stood with guns they knew would do nothing. Staff stared through glass walls toward the front plaza. Outside, floating above the steps, the alien waited. He looked relaxed, patient, like time belonged to him. Homelander stepped forward, forcing his smile back onto his face. "Welcome to Vought Tower," he said, loud enough for the cameras that had already gathered. "Let's talk." The alien's eyes moved over Homelander, then past him, to Edgar. His smile sharpened. "Finally," he said. "Someone who looks like a decision-maker." Homelander's smile twitched. Edgar stepped out beside Homelander, unbothered by the fact that the thing above them could erase the building with a flick. "I'm Stan Edgar," Edgar said, "CEO of Vought International." The alien's tail swayed slowly. "A title," he said approvingly. "Good. You may call me Lord Frieza." Ashley felt her skin prickle. The way he said it made it sound like a rule, not a preference. Edgar nodded once, as if he had met many difficult men. "Lord Frieza, what brings you to our world?" Frieza drifted lower until his feet hovered just above the steps, still not touching ground. His eyes took in the cameras, the security, the polished stone, the Vought logo. He looked at it like it was a product label. "I detected a tier," Frieza said. "A pathway. I followed it. That's all." "That's all?" Homelander repeated, offended. Frieza's gaze slid to him. "Yes," he said, mild. "You are not the reason." Homelander's eyes flashed. Heat gathered behind them. Ashley saw it and felt terror spike through her chest. Edgar spoke quickly, smooth. "We can provide information, assistance, and whatever resources you might require." Frieza's smile returned to Edgar. Resources. He liked that word. He turned his head slightly, listening to the building, as if he could hear the flow of money and secrets inside it. "You make soldiers," Frieza said. A scientist nearby flinched. Ashley's mouth went dry. Edgar's expression did not change. "We develop pharmaceuticals." Frieza gave a soft laugh. "You dress it up. Cute." His eyes gleamed. "But you make enhanced humans. Your strongest one is—" He glanced at Homelander again, like checking a file. Loud. Homelander stepped forward. "I'm not your—" Frieza's tail snapped once. It was not a strike. It was a warning. The air pressure changed. Everyone in the lobby felt their ears pop, like being deep underwater. A few security guards stumbled. Guns clattered to the floor. Homelander stopped talking. Frieza spoke gently, but the softness made it worse. "You will not interrupt me again." Ashley's knees wanted to buckle. She forced them to stay locked. Edgar nodded, careful. "Understood." Frieza turned and floated through the lobby doors, as if they were already open for him. The security sensor screamed, and then died, screens flickering black. He moved through the building with quiet confidence, scanning everything with his eyes alone. Elevators opened on their own. Locks clicked without hands. Ashley hurried along, trying not to throw up. Homelander followed, silent. His face was tight. He hated this. He hated being led. Frieza paused at a wall display showing Vought's hero brands, smiling faces, merchandise lines, and charity slogans. He stared for a moment. "This," Frieza said, "is your empire?" Ashley forced a laugh that sounded like a sob. "It's marketing." Frieza looked amused. "So you conquer with posters?" Edgar's voice stayed professional. "We shape culture. We provide stability." Frieza nodded slowly, as if that was almost respectable. "Ah, control." His eyes narrowed. "That I understand." They entered a lab floor. Glass rooms, white coats, vials, monitors. Frieza watched a technician handle a small bottle labeled with codes. "Compound V," Frieza read aloud, like tasting the sound. "This is your tool." A scientist tried to speak. "It's—" Frieza raised a finger, and the scientist's mouth snapped shut as if invisible tape had sealed it. The man's eyes bulged in panic, but he could still breathe. Frieza looked at Edgar. "You will show me your process, your supply, your distribution, and your chain of command." Edgar did not flinch. "You want oversight?" Frieza smiled. "I want ownership." Homelander finally spoke, voice low, dangerous. "No." Frieza did not even turn. He simply lifted his hand. Homelander slammed back into the hallway wall like he had been hit by a truck. The wall cracked. Glass spidered. Homelander stayed pinned there, arms shaking, boots scraping helplessly. Ashley gasped. She tried to step forward, then stopped. There was nothing she could do. Frieza looked back at Homelander with mild interest. "You really believe you are important," he said. "That must be fun." Homelander's face twisted with rage. His eyes glowed bright. He tried to fire heat vision. The beams hit empty air. Frieza was already beside him. Too close. Too fast. Frieza tapped Homelander's forehead with one finger. Homelander went still. His eyes went wide. His heat vision stopped like someone had flipped a switch. Frieza leaned in, voice quiet enough that only Homelander could hear. Ashley saw Homelander's throat move as he swallowed. Then Frieza stepped away and let Homelander drop. Homelander caught himself, breathing hard, pretending his knees were not weak. Edgar spoke, steady, as if he was guiding a meeting back on track. "Lord Frieza, Earth has governments, militaries. You will want to speak with them." Frieza's smile returned. "Yes." He clasped his hands behind his back, like a man taking a tour. "Set it up." Ashley found her voice, thin. "We can arrange a summit." Frieza nodded. "Good." He glanced at her, and Ashley nearly stopped breathing. "And you," he said, "will stop shaking. It makes you look dishonest." Ashley forced her hand still. It felt like stopping an earthquake. Frieza floated toward a conference room. Inside were chairs, a long table, a large screen. He sat at the head without asking. His feet still did not touch the floor. He looked around at them like he was counting employees. "Now," Frieza said, "tell me how your world works. Who truly rules it?" Edgar did not answer with names. He answered with structure. "Influence is distributed. Government, finance, military power, media." Frieza's eyes gleamed. "So many heads," he said. "Interesting." He sounded almost delighted. "It will take longer to cut them off." Homelander bristled. "You're not cutting off." Frieza's eyes shifted to him. Homelander stopped. His pride fought with his fear, and fear was winning. Edgar continued, "Because someone had to." "You're asking for control, but you have not stated your purpose." Frieza leaned back slightly, relaxed. "Purpose?" he echoed. "I rule. That is purpose enough." Edgar's voice stayed calm. "Earth will resist." Frieza smiled wider. "Then Earth will learn." He lifted a hand. A small purple glow formed above his palm. It looked harmless, like a toy light. The entire room tensed anyway. Frieza let the glow fade. "Do not misunderstand," he said. "I am being polite. I have not destroyed your planet. That is generosity." Ashley felt tears burn her eyes. She blinked them back. Crying in front of this thing felt like signing her own death papers. Edgar nodded slowly. "Then we will cooperate. For now." Frieza's tail curled with approval. "Good." He looked at Homelander again. "You will bring your team. I want to see your strongest assets. We will assess performance." Homelander's face twitched at the word performance. Frieza's smile turned playful. "Think of it like a review." And just like that, Vought Tower was not an HQ anymore. It was a branch office. The boys watched it all from a grimy TV in a cramped safe house that smelled like old beer and burned electronics. Huey sat forward, hands clasped tight. His knuckles were white. That's not a soup." "No kidding," Frenchie muttered, eyes wide like a kid watching a horror movie he couldn't stop loving. MM stared at the screen with a hard, steady look. His mind was already counting exits, supplies, ways to protect civilians that he would never even meet. Kimiko crouched near the corner, silent, head tilted, listening to the panic in the city through the walls. Starlight stood near the window, arms crossed around herself. Her eyes were bright with anger and fear. He pinned Homelander like he was nothing. Butcher smiled, and it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who saw a new weapon in the world. Well, Butcher said softly. Look at that. Huey looked at him. That's not a good thing. Butcher's eyes stayed on the screen. Depends who you ask, mate. Starlight's voice sharpened. Butcher. He turned his head slowly. What? Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you didn't see it. He pointed at the TV. For the first time, that cape-wearing psycho looked scared. MM's tone was warning. And for the first time, the whole planet might be scared with him. Butcher's smile faded into something colder. Yeah, he said. That's the problem. The phone on the table buzzed. MM picked it up. Listened, then glanced at Butcher. It's the CIA, MM said. They want to meet. Butcher snorted. Course they do. Huey's stomach sank. For what? MM looked back at the screen, where Frieza sat at the head of a table like he owned the building. For answers, MM said. And because nobody else has the guts to do anything smart. Butcher's eyes glittered. Then let's go be smart, he said. Starlight stared at the alien on the screen. Lord Frieza. That name had weight, not because of fame, because of the way he used it like a leash. And deep down, Annie felt the simple truth press on her chest. This world was cruel before. Now it had a ruler who understood cruelty like an art. The first assessment was sold to the public as a defense plan. Vought put out a statement within the hour. Ashley read it from a teleprompter, cheeks pale under makeup. This unknown entity has been peacefully contained through Vought coordination, she said, voice too bright. The Seven are working alongside global partners to ensure public safety. Behind the camera, her hands shook again. Stan Edgar watched the broadcast without expression. Homelander watched it too, and his jaw clenched hard enough to hurt. The lie tasted bitter, because he had felt the truth in his bones. He had been held, he had been powerless, and he could not let the world see it. So when Edgar told him there would be a demonstration offshore, away from major cities, Homelander said yes. He told himself it was strategy. He told himself it was control. Frieza agreed as well, because Frieza liked tests. He liked seeing where things broke. Out at sea, the day was bright and clean. A carrier group formed a steel island on the water. Jets circled. Drones hovered like insects. On the deck, the Seven gathered with stiff smiles for cameras that did not truly belong there, but always found their way in. A-Train bounced on his toes, trying to look relaxed. Maeve looked tired, eyes narrowed. The Deep stared at the ocean like he wished he could dive and never come back. Homelander stood at the front. He was the shield. That was what the world believed. A helicopter approached. The wind from its blades whipped flags and hair. Cameras leaned in. Frieza floated out of the helicopter's open side like stepping off an elevator. He did not need a harness. He did not need a suit. The air itself obeyed him. He descended onto the deck without touching it, hovering an inch above the steel. He looked around at the ships, the jets, the soldiers lined up with tight faces and trembling hands. Then his eyes moved to the Seven. His smile sharpened. Excellent, he said. You brought your assets. Homelander forced his grin. We're going to make sure you understand something, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. This planet isn't for sale. Frieza's eyes flicked to him. Everything is for sale, Frieza said. Sometimes the currency is fear. A general stepped forward, trying to sound strong. You are trespassing in sovereign territory. Frieza turned his head slowly. The general froze, like prey that had realized the predator was already close. Frieza's voice stayed light. I will forgive your tone, he said. Once. Homelander lifted off the deck and hovered at Frieza's level. Cameras zoomed in tight. Soldiers held their breath. You think you can just show up and take over? Homelander said. I'm Homelander. Frieza blinked once, as if reading the name on a badge. Yes, he said. The loud one. A few people flinched. It was a simple insult, but it landed like a punch because it was true. Homelander attacked. He moved fast, faster than any human could track. A white crack of air followed his fist. Frieza did not move. Homelander's punch stopped inches from Frieza's face. His arm shook, his muscles strained. Something invisible held him back. Homelander snarled and fired heat vision. The red beam struck Frieza's face and slid off like light off polished glass. Frieza looked annoyed now, like someone had gotten fingerprints on his screen. He raised one hand and pressed 2 fingers against Homelander's chest. It was not a dramatic shove. It was a small motion. Homelander flew backward across the deck, smashing through a stack of crates. Metal shrieked. The carrier deck dented under him. Maeve's eyes widened. A-Train's mouth fell open. The Deep whispered, "What the?" Frieza's gaze moved across them. "If that is your leader," he said, "this will be easy." A siren screamed. Jets dove in. Missiles launched. The carrier's defenses woke up in a frenzy of machine logic. The sky filled with trails of smoke. Frieza lifted one finger. The missiles stopped. Dozens of them froze in the air at different angles, flames still burning. Their metal bodies held in perfect place like toys pinned on a wall. People stared upward, stunned by the impossibility. Frieza flicked his finger again. The missiles shot straight up, far into the sky, then turned outward like a firework that had decided to obey a new artist. They detonated harmlessly above the ocean in a chain of loud blooms. No ship was hit. Frieza had made the military look like children throwing rocks at a mountain. On the deck, Maeve charged. She was brave. She was strong. She had beaten enemies that would tear normal people in half. Her fist met an invisible wall inches from Frieza's shoulder. Her bones screamed. Her eyes watered from the shock. Frieza turned his head toward her like he had just noticed her. "Oh," he said. "You are tougher." Maeve grit her teeth and tried to push through. She could not. It was like trying to punch a building. Frieza tapped her forehead with one finger. Maeve dropped instantly, not dead, but unconscious, collapsing to the deck like a puppet with cut strings. A-Train swore and vanished in a blur, trying to get behind Frieza. Frieza's tail snapped out without him turning his body. It struck A-Train mid-sprint. The speedster cartwheeled across the deck and slammed into the side rail. He groaned, dazed, breath knocked out of him. The Deep hesitated, hands half raised, not sure what he could even do. There was no water attack that mattered here. There was no animal in the sea that could fight the sky itself. Homelander burst from the wrecked crates, face twisted with rage and embarrassment. He shot upward again, faster, desperate. Frieza watched him come. This time, Frieza moved. To everyone else, it looked like Frieza simply blinked out of place. Homelander's punch tore through empty air. He overextended. His balance broke for a fraction of a second. Frieza appeared above him, one hand on Homelander's shoulder. Then Frieza drove Homelander down. Homelander hit the deck hard enough to crater it. Steel buckled. A shockwave rippled through the carrier. Soldiers fell to their knees. Homelander tried to rise. Frieza held him there with pressure alone. Homelander's muscles shook. Veins bulged in his neck. His face reddened. His eyes flickered toward the cameras. And for the smallest moment, fear broke through his anger. Frieza leaned down, smiling like a teacher correcting a student. "You are strong," Frieza said. "For this planet." Homelander snarled. "I'll kill you." Frieza's smile faded into something colder. "No," he said simply. "You won't." He lifted Homelander off the deck without touching him, raising him into the air like a trophy. Then Frieza turned to the carrier, to the soldiers, to the watching drones, to the cameras that would feed fear into every home. "This is the best you have," Frieza said, his voice carried without shouting. "And it is not enough." He lowered Homelander back onto the deck and released him. Homelander landed on his feet, breathing hard, trying to stand tall. His cape fluttered like it was trying to help him look bigger. Frieza floated higher and spread his arms slightly, almost welcoming. "Understand this," Frieza said. "I did not come here to destroy your world. Destruction is easy. Rule is more useful." He looked at Stan Edgar, who watched from a safe distance, eyes measuring every detail. Edgar's face did not show fear, but his body stayed perfectly still, like he knew sudden movement might invite death. Frieza nodded at him, as if approving of his composure. "Your corporation," Frieza said, "will serve as my local administration. Your media will broadcast my terms. Your laboratories will be expanded. Your enhanced humans will be evaluated." He paused, letting the words sink in. "And your governments will cooperate," Frieza added, "because if they do not, I will select a city, and I will remove it." He spoke the threat the way someone described deleting a file. Homelander's fists clenched. His face was a mask of fury. But underneath it, something had cracked. For years, Homelander had been the ceiling of everyone's fear. Now he had met something above him. Frieza looked down at Homelander one last time, almost kindly. "You will learn your place," he said. Then he turned toward the horizon, toward the line where sea met sky, and he smiled again. "Now," Frieza said, as if returning to a schedule, "bring me your leaders." Out on the water, the carrier group sat silent and stunned. Back on land, millions watched their strongest hero get handled, like a problem that had already been solved. And in a small safe house far away, Billy Butcher watched the same footage and felt a dangerous thought settle in his mind, like a loaded gun. For the first time, the king of this world could bleed. Not from Frieza's fists, but from fear. The next day, the fear did not fade. It multiplied. In the morning, kids watched the clips on phones before school. At lunch, adults watched the same clips again, even though it made their stomachs hurt. At night, people replayed the moment Homelander hit the deck like a thrown doll, and they whispered the words they never used to whisper. "Maybe he can't save us." Vought tried to fix it fast. Ashley stood in a studio under lights that made her sweat feel cold. She read from a teleprompter, smiling so hard it almost looked like pain. "Yesterday's incident was a misunderstanding," she said. "Vought is coordinating with international partners. The 7 are working around the clock. There is no need for panic." Behind the camera, someone held up a card that said, "Smile bigger." Ashley's smile got bigger. The world did not believe it. On a second screen in the studio, a new graphic slid across. Lord Frieza, visiting partner or threat. Ashley's eyes twitched when she read the name. A name like that did not sound like a soup. It sounded like a ruler. Off stage, Stan Edgar watched the broadcast in silence. He was already thinking about the next week, not the next hour. He knew how humans worked. They did not live in truth. They lived in stories. Stories could be bent. Stories could be sold. Stories could calm crowds long enough to build a plan. But Frieza was not a story. Frieza was a fact. Edgar turned away from the studio and walked down a quiet hallway toward a secured conference floor. Vaught's security opened doors ahead of him like he was royalty. Edgar did not enjoy that. It reminded him that power was always on loan. At the end of the hall, the air felt different, like the building itself was holding its breath. 2 guards stood stiff beside a door that had been reinforced overnight. Edgar noted the fresh steel plates, the extra cameras, the trembling hands on guns no one would use. Edgar entered. Frieza floated near the far window, looking out at the city as if he was browsing inventory. His tail swayed slowly behind him. He did not turn when Edgar approached. "You have a beautiful planet," Frieza said. "Messy, loud, but valuable. Edgar stopped a careful distance away. I'm glad you see potential. Frieza finally looked at him. His eyes were bright and calm, the kind of calm that did not come from peace. It came from certainty. I do, Frieza said. And I appreciate an organization that understands order. Your company has structure. Edgar did not correct the word company. He did not say corporation. He did not say empire. Frieza chose words like tools. I understand your world is complicated, Edgar said. Many governments, many competing interests. Frieza smiled. Yes. Too many heads. Edgar kept his voice level. If you attempt to rule by removing heads, you will face constant revolt. Frieza's smile did not leave. Then I will rule by shaping fear. Fear is faster than loyalty. Edgar took that in. He already knew it, but hearing it spoken so plainly felt like looking into a mirror and seeing a stranger's face. You will meet leaders, Edgar said. We can arrange that. Frieza drifted a little closer, still not touching the floor. I will not meet a crowd, he said. Crowds waste time. I will meet the ones who decide, the ones who sign orders that send armies to die. Edgar nodded once. Understood. Frieza tilted his head, studying Edgar. Tell me, Stan Edgar, he said, tasting the name like a new product. Do you enjoy being in charge? Edgar did not blink. I enjoy stability. Frieza's laugh was soft. A careful answer, he said. I like careful people. They live longer. Edgar did not smile. What do you intend to do with our enhanced humans? Frieza waved a hand like he was sorting papers. Evaluate, he said. Rank. Assign roles. Punish failure. He looked pleased at the last part. I will establish a chain of command, Frieza continued. Your superheroes will be offered positions. The ones who obey will be rewarded. The ones who resist will be removed. Edgar's mind ran through options like a machine. Sabotage, delay, bargain, misdirect. He could work with this. Not because he believed he could beat Frieza, because he believed he could buy time. There is also the issue of public perception, Edgar said. Your presence creates panic. Frieza lifted a brow. Panic is useful. For a moment, Edgar said. Then it becomes disorder. Frieza looked almost amused. You care about your brand, he said. Edgar held the gaze. I care about control. Frieza's smile widened again, approving. Good, he said. Then you will help me. Edgar's phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. Frieza drifted back toward the window. Bring me your lists, he said. Your heroes, your military units, your prisons, your research. I want full access. Edgar did not hesitate. I will arrange it. Frieza turned just enough to show the edge of his teeth. Excellent, he said. We begin the audit today. Edgar left the room with his face unchanged. Only when the door shut behind him did he allow himself one small breath. In the hallway, he checked the buzzing phone. A text from Ashley. He wants to talk to Homelander alone. Is that safe? Edgar stared at the words for a moment. Then he typed back. Nothing is safe. Prepare Homelander anyway. Homelander sat in a private lounge high above the city. The room was built for him. Huge windows, soft chairs, awards and portraits, a bar with expensive bottles no one else was allowed to touch. He stood by the window, hands clasped behind his back, forcing himself to look calm. On the street far below, he could see people gathered around screens and store windows. He could almost hear their whispers. He could feel it. The shift. He was still Homelander. He was still the strongest thing they had ever seen. But now they had seen something else. His stomach twisted with a hot, sick anger. He remembered the invisible pressure, the way his body refused him, the moment his heat vision did nothing. Nothing. He clenched his jaw until it hurt. A knock came at the door. "Come in," he said. Voice steady. Ashley slipped inside like a mouse entering a lion's cage. She tried to smile. She failed. "Hey," she chirped. Too high. "So, great job yesterday, obviously. You were so brave." Homelander stared at her. Ashley swallowed and tried again. "Stan wants you in conference floor 16. Frieza, Lord Frieza, requested you." Homelander's eyes narrowed. "Requested?" he repeated. Ashley nodded fast. "Yes. Like a meeting." Homelander laughed once, sharp and humorless. "He thinks I'm an employee." Ashley's voice shook. Please don't get mad at me." Homelander walked closer. Ashley backed up without meaning to. Her shoulders hit the door. She froze. Homelander leaned in, close enough that Ashley could smell his cologne. "If I fail," Homelander whispered, "you fail with me." Ashley's eyes watered. "I'm trying," she whispered back. Homelander pulled away, face smooth again. "Get out," he said. Ashley left so fast she almost tripped. Homelander turned back to the window. He watched the city like it was supposed to comfort him. Instead, it reminded him how much he needed it to worship him. His hands shook. He hated that most of all. In the safe house, the TV volume stayed low, but the fear still filled the room. Huey sat on the floor, with his knees drawn up, phone in hand, scrolling past video after video. People crying, people screaming, people arguing in comment sections about whether they should pray or riot or buy guns. He looked up at Annie. Starlight. She was pacing in short loops like a caged animal. "They're calling him the real hero in some places," Huey said quietly. Like he's here to fix things." Annie stopped pacing. Her eyes were tired. "Because he made the loud bully look small," she said. "Some people confuse that with justice." Sat at the table, arms crossed, thinking. "The government is going to try something," he said. "They always do." Frenchie was on a laptop, pulling stolen feeds. "Vought is moving," he said. "They are locking floors, shuffling staff. And look," he pointed at the screen. "They call it an audit. That alien is doing an audit." Butcher sat back, boots on a chair like he owned the place. He watched Annie like she was the only adult in the room besides "What's your plan, Starlight?" Butcher asked. Annie's eyes flashed. "My plan is to keep people alive," she said. Butcher smirked. "Cute, how?" Annie's voice hardened. "Rescues, evacuations, helping people hide when the next disaster hits." Butcher tilted his head. "And what about Homelander?" Annie's jaw tightened. "This isn't about your revenge." Butcher's smile faded. "It's always about keeping monsters off the streets," he said. "And now, we've got one monster scaring another." Huey looked between them, anxious. We can't use Frieza," Huey said. "He's worse." Butcher's eyes slid to Huey. "Worse than Homelander?" he asked. Huey opened his mouth, closed it. He hated that he couldn't answer fast. Spoke. "Listen," said, voice steady. "Both can be true. Homelander is a problem. Frieza is a global extinction problem." Annie nodded. "Exactly." Butcher leaned forward. "Then we do what we always do," he said. "We plan. We dig. We find leverage." Frenchie snorted. "Leverage against a flying purple space emperor?" Butcher's eyes gleamed. "Everyone's got something," he said. "Even if it's pride. Even if it's boredom." Annie frowned. "Boredom?" Butcher shrugged. "He came here like he was shopping for a new office," he said. "That's not hunger. That's ego." Huey rubbed his face. "So what? What's the move?" Looked at the board on the wall, covered in photos and strings. "We learn," he said. "We watch. We don't rush." Butcher shook his head. "We can't just watch," he said. If he sets rules, people will follow. If people follow, Vought wins again. Annie's voice went quiet. Vought is already winning, she said. They're turning this into content. Frenchie leaned closer to the screen. I have something, he said. Everyone looked. Frenchie tapped a key. A hidden camera feed appeared. A hallway in Vote Tower. 2 guards. A door labeled Conference 16. On the feed, Frieza floated past, followed by Stan Edgar and a small group of scientists. A little device on a cart rolled behind them, blinking. Frenchie pointed. That, he said. A scanner. Not human. Not Vought. He brought it in the pod. Butcher's grin returned. There we go, he said softly. Frowned. We're not breaking into Vote Tower right now. Butcher held his hands up. Not today, he said. But soon. We need something of his. Something that's his. Annie looked at the feed again, her face tense. If he starts building an army here, she said, people die. A lot of people. Huey swallowed. Then we stop that part, he said. Butcher glanced at Huey, surprised at the firmness. Huey's hands shook, but his eyes stayed on the screen. We can't stop him from being strong, Huey said, but maybe we can stop him from getting organized. Butcher sat back, pleased. Welcome to the job, mate, he said. Victoria Newman watched the chaos on a tablet from a quiet office with soundproof walls. Outside, her staff was panicking. Phones rang non-stop. Advisors argued. Security asked for orders. Inside, Newman sat perfectly still. She rewound the clip of Frieza holding Homelander again, studying it like a scientist. She had seen soups. She had seen threats. She had seen what people did when they believed they were above consequences. This was different. This was not ego alone. This was empire. Newman set the tablet down and steepled her fingers. She thought about the next headline. She thought about the next law. She thought about the next election. Fear was a river. If you built the right dam, you could control where it flowed. Her phone buzzed. Caller ID. Stan Edgar. Newman answered without changing her face. Stan. Victoria, Edgar said smoothly. We need cooperation. Newman's smile was polite. Everyone needs cooperation right now. Edgar's voice stayed calm. This entity demands to meet leaders, the ones who can commit resources. Newman leaned back. So you want me in a room with him? Edgar paused. Just a beat. Yes. Newman let silence stretch, just long enough to remind Edgar she had options too. Tell me something, she said. Do you think you can control him? Edgar did not lie. No, he said. Newman's smile sharpened slightly. She respected that. Then what are you doing? Edgar's voice lowered. Buying time, learning his habits, his preferences, his limits. Newman nodded once, alone in her office. Aren't you afraid he'll kill you? Edgar's tone was flat. He hasn't yet. Newman chuckled softly. That's not comfort, Stan. That's luck. Edgar did not argue. Will you attend? Newman's eyes flicked to a framed photo on her desk. A child, a reminder of why she did anything at all. Yes, she said. I'll attend. Edgar exhaled quietly. Good. Newman added, almost casually. And Stan, keep him away from crowds if you can. Edgar's voice tightened slightly. Why? Newman looked at the tablet again, at Frieza's calm smile. Crowds make mistakes, she said. And mistakes get cities erased. She ended the call and stared at the screen. Then she whispered to herself, as if making a promise. If he's staying, Newman murmured, then I will be one of the people he has to listen to. Her eyes stayed cold. Fear would move. Newman would steer it. The summit took place in a secure underground facility that had been built for nuclear war. not for a smiling alien who treated war like paperwork. Concrete walls, steel doors, air that smelled like old dust and recycled oxygen. The room was packed with people who were used to being the most important humans alive. Defense officials, intelligence chiefs, Vought executives, a few politicians who had demanded to be there so they could be seen standing strong. Frieza arrived last. He floated through the door like it had opened itself for him. His posture was relaxed. His face looked amused, like he could tell everyone had practiced their serious expressions in the mirror. Homelander was there too, standing stiff beside a flag display, trying to look like he belonged in the room. Frieza glanced at the flags and smirked. "So many colors," he said. "So many little kingdoms." A general cleared his throat. "Lord Frieza!" Frieza held up one finger. The general's voice stopped mid-word, choking in his throat. The man's eyes widened in shock. Frieza smiled. "You will speak when I allow it," he said gently. "That will make this go faster." He turned to Stan Edgar. "You may continue," Frieza said, as if Edgar was a host. Edgar nodded. "Lord Frieza wishes to present terms." One of the politicians stood, trying to reclaim dignity. "We do not accept conquest," he said. "This is Earth." Frieza looked at him with bright curiosity. "Earth," he repeated. "A lovely name for a mine." The politician's face reddened. "If you harm civilians," Frieza waved his hand, as if brushing away dust. The politician lifted off his chair and floated into the air, arms flailing. His legs kicked helplessly. The room erupted. Shouts, chairs scraping, hands going to guns. Homelander tensed, but he did not move. Frieza held the politician there for a few seconds, long enough for everyone to feel how powerless they were. Then Frieza lowered him back into his chair and released him. The politician sat shaking, eyes wet with humiliation. Frieza clasped his hands behind his back. "Let's be clear," he said. "I am not here to negotiate equal terms. I am here to establish order." He looked around the room like he was checking attendance. "Your planet will provide 3 things," Frieza said. "Labor, materials, soldiers." A defense official tried to speak. Frieza's eyes slid to him, and the man froze, deciding not to. Frieza continued. "In exchange, your planet will be spared." He said spared like it was a gift. A woman from intelligence forced her voice steady. "We have no way to verify your intentions," Frieza smiled. "Then verify this," he said. He lifted one finger. A small purple light formed above it. The room temperature changed, like the air had gone thin. Frieza pointed at a thick steel support beam across the room. The beam vanished, not melted, not broken. Gone. The ceiling above it did not collapse. Frieza held it in place with invisible force, proving he was not just destruction, he was control. Frieza let the ceiling settle gently into a new balance. He turned back to the table. "You have 1 week," he said. 1 week to begin compliance." A murmur spread like a sickness. "And if you do not," Frieza added, voice still calm, "I will select a major city, one with symbolic value. I will remove it. Then you will comply." Homelander's jaw clenched. He looked like he wanted to explode. Frieza's gaze slid to him, and a small smile returned. "Do you disapprove?" Frieza asked. Homelander forced a laugh. "You're threatening my people," he said. Frieza's eyes narrowed slightly. "Your people?" he repeated, amused. "No, they are not yours. Not anymore." Homelander took a step forward. Edgar spoke quickly, smooth. "We understand the timeline," he said. "We will respond appropriately." Frieza nodded, satisfied. "Good," he said. "Now we discuss structure." He snapped his fingers. A device rolled forward, his own scanner humming softly. A hologram flickered into the air, showing a clean chart with ranks and slots like a company org chart. At the top, Lord Frieza. Below, Governor. Below, Enforcers. Below, Soldiers. Frieza pointed at the governor slot. I will appoint a governor, he said. Someone local. Someone feared. Homelander's eyes flashed. He thought for one dangerous second that it might be him. Frieza looked at Edgar. You, Frieza said. The room went silent. Edgar's face did not change. I don't have powers, Edgar said calmly. Frieza smiled. Governors don't need powers, he said. They need obedience and intelligence. You have both. Homelander's hands clenched into fists so hard his knuckles whitened. Frieza turned back to the chart. My enforcers, he said, will be your best fighters, your heroes. Those who accept will live well. Those who refuse will be made into examples. He glanced around the room again. Any questions? Frieza asked sweetly. No one spoke. Frieza's smile widened. Excellent, he said. I like quick learners. When the meeting ended, everyone left, feeling like they had swallowed rocks. Frieza floated out last, humming softly, as if pleased with his own efficiency. Homelander stayed behind for a moment, staring at the empty chair the politician had been lifted from. He was trembling, not from fear alone, from humiliation, from the simple fact that he had been in the room and still meant nothing. That night, Annie stood on a rooftop in the city, watching helicopters sweep searchlights over neighborhoods like it was a manhunt. She could hear sirens in the distance. She could smell smoke from a riot 2 blocks away. Below her, people crowded around a TV mounted outside a bar. On screen, a pundit argued loudly that Frieza was the solution to corrupt superheroes. Another pundit screamed that Frieza was the end of human freedom. Annie's stomach twisted. She remembered the way Frieza erased that steel beam without effort. She remembered the way he talked about removing a city like it was cleaning a spill. Her phone buzzed. Huey's name. She answered. Yeah? Huey's voice was low. Butcher's got something, he said. He wants us back. Annie closed her eyes for a second. Of course he does, she muttered. He says Vought is starting trials, Huey added. Like sign-ups. Annie's eyes snapped open. For what? Huey hesitated. For Frieza, he said. For his army. Annie stared out over the city lights. They looked peaceful from up here, like nothing could touch them. She knew better. I'm coming, she said. Don't do anything stupid until I'm there. Huey gave a weak laugh. With Butcher? Good luck. Annie hung up and watched the city for one more moment. Then she turned and moved fast, jumping down to the next roof, then the next. If Frieza was building a chain of command, Annie would not let people walk into it blind. She could not fight him in the sky, but she could fight what he was doing to the ground. 2 days later, the recruitment began. Vought framed it as a global defense effort. Join the Earth Protection Initiative, the ad said. Stand with the 7. The music was heroic. The voices were warm. The footage was old, from a world that did not exist anymore. Under the surface, it was a draft, not for a war humans chose, for an empire that had arrived without permission. The first trial took place in a vote facility outside the city, a huge complex with fences, cameras, and security towers. Inside, soups and would-be soups lined up in bright uniforms. Some looked excited. Some looked terrified. Some looked like they had already decided to sell their souls if it meant safety. Frieza floated above the main floor like a judge at a tournament. He had a clipboard, not a real paper clipboard, something holographic that hovered near his hand. But it looked like a clipboard, and that made it worse. He was turning conquest into office work. Stan Edgar stood at a platform beside him, calm and silent. Ashley stood nearby too, trying not to faint. A VOD announcer spoke into a microphone. "Welcome. Today we begin evaluations for the future of Earth." Frieza glanced at the announcer and frowned. The announcer's mic cut out. His voice died. Frieza spoke instead, his words carrying easily through the room. "Stop cheering," Frieza said. "This is not a celebration. This is selection." The room quieted instantly. Frieza pointed at the first line of candidates. "You," he said. "Show me your strongest attack." A soup stepped forward. He was bulky, with stone-like skin. He roared and slammed his fists into the ground. The floor cracked. Dust rose. People clapped weakly. Frieza nodded once, bored. He flicked a finger. The soup lifted off the ground and spun helplessly in the air like a rag doll. Then Frieza dropped him gently back onto his feet. "You have durability," Frieza said. "Limited control. Medium value." He marked something on the holographic clipboard. The soup stared, confused and scared, like he had just been graded in a class he did not understand. Frieza moved down the line, testing powers with quick, cruel efficiency. A speedster, a telekinetic, a fire user, a man who could scream loud enough to shatter glass. Frieza did not seem impressed by any of it. He was not looking for cool. He was looking for obedience. When someone hesitated, Frieza stared until they moved. When someone tried to show off, Frieza embarrassed them with one clean counter. Ashley watched from the side, sweating. She leaned toward Edgar and whispered, "We're going to die." Edgar did not look at her. "Not today," he said quietly. Ashley's eyes darted to Frieza. "How can you be so calm?" Edgar's voice stayed low. "Because panic is not a plan," he said, "and he respects control." Ashley swallowed. "Does he respect anything?" Edgar's eyes narrowed slightly. "He respects efficiency," he said, "and he respects fear that knows its place." Ashley almost laughed. It came out as a tiny sob. Above them, Frieza stopped on a new candidate, a young soup woman with glowing hands. Her eyes were bright with hope, like she truly believed joining would make things better. "I can help people," she said quickly. "I can heal. I can—" Frieza tilted his head. "Healing," he said. "Useful." The woman smiled, relieved. Frieza's smile stayed polite. "You will heal my soldiers," he said. "If you fail, I will replace you." The woman's smile faded. Frieza moved on without caring about her feelings. Edgar watched it all with a hard, distant look. He was learning Frieza's language: rank, threat, reward. He could work with that. He could also weaponize it if he found the right lever. Not to win. To survive long enough for something else to change. The boys did not go in through the front gate. Huey sat in the back of a cramped van, staring at the facility on a grainy drone feed. His stomach kept trying to crawl up into his throat. Frenchie sat beside him with a small toolkit and too many wires. He hummed softly to calm himself down. Checked weapons they were not planning to use, because it made him feel ready. Kimiko sat still, eyes focused, breathing slow. Butcher leaned forward in the front seat, smiling like a man driving toward a bar fight. Annie sat near the door, hood up, face tight. She hated this. Not the risk. The feeling that they were walking into a grinder. Huey cleared his throat. "Just so we're clear," he said. "Our plan is—" "What?" Butcher looked back. "We get eyes inside," he said. "We find where Frieza's tech is stored. We learn how he's organizing them." "And if we get caught?" Huey asked. Butcher's smile widened. "Then we improvise." Shot Butcher a look. "No," said. "We don't improvise around someone who can erase cities." Butcher shrugged. "We don't have a choice." Frenchie leaned toward Huey, whispering, "We do a small thing. We steal a small piece. That is how you beat big men. You take their keys. Huey tried to breathe. Annie watched the drone feed. She could see lines of people entering the facility, smiling for cameras. They think they're joining a team, Annie said softly. They don't know they're signing up to be owned. Butcher's eyes stayed on the screen. Then we make sure at least some of them learn, he said. They moved at dusk. Frenchie cut power to a stretch of fence for 8 seconds. Timed it. Kimiko slid through first like a shadow. Annie followed. Huey last, heart pounding so loud he thought the guards would hear it. Inside, the facility felt like Vought. Clean, bright, full of cameras. But underneath it now was something else. A heaviness. A new rule. They moved through maintenance corridors, guided by Frenchie's hacked map. Huey's mouth went dry when they passed a room where candidates sat in rows, waiting their turn like people at a job interview. A Vought staffer handed out water and smiley pamphlets. A TV on the wall played heroic music. Huey wanted to scream. They reached a secure storage hallway with 2 guards outside a door, labeled Foreign Equipment. Butcher grinned. "That's the one," he whispered. Pulled him back. "We watch first," hissed. "We don't rush." They waited in a dark vent space, peering down. Minutes passed. Then a shadow glided into view. Frieza floated down the hallway, alone, tail swaying. A small device hovered beside him, projecting his rank chart. He stopped at the Foreign Equipment door. The guards snapped to attention so fast their boots squeaked. Frieza did not look at them. He touched the door with one finger. It unlocked. He entered. The door closed. Butcher's eyes lit up like a kid seeing candy. "Alone?" Butcher breathed. Annie's voice went firm. "No," she whispered. "Not alone. Never alone. He's always in control." Huey stared at the closed door, and for a second he felt something cold in his chest. It wasn't fear. It was understanding. Frieza didn't need guards. The guards were just decoration. Frenchie whispered, "We take something after he leaves." Nodded. "Yes." They waited. Frieza left the room 3 minutes later, still calm. He floated away, and the guards exhaled like they had been holding their breath the whole time. When the hallway was clear, Frenchie worked quickly. He looped a camera feed. Annie listened for footsteps. Kimiko stood ready near the corner. The lock was not a normal lock. Frenchie cursed under his breath. "Alien nonsense," he whispered. Butcher leaned in. "Can you open it or not?" Frenchie swallowed, then smiled thinly. "Yes," he said. "But if it screams, we run." He slid a small device into the seam. It sparked. The door clicked. They slipped inside. The room was cool and dim. Shelves lined the walls. On one table sat a sleek, curved piece of technology, like a visor or a scanner. Huey stared at it. "That's his," he whispered. Frenchie nodded, eyes shining. "A scouter," he said softly, almost reverent. "It reads energy. It talks to his network. This is a key." Grabbed Huey's sleeve. "Don't touch anything else," he warned. Butcher reached for the scouter. Annie caught his wrist. "One thing," she hissed. "We take one thing. We don't get greedy." Butcher glared at her. Then he looked at the scouter again, and he slowly nodded. He took it, careful. The device felt heavy in his hand, like trouble made solid. Then, somewhere outside, an alarm began to wail. Not the door alarm, a different one, a deeper one, an emergency siren. MM's eyes snapped to Annie. "That's not us," he said. Annie's face tightened. "Something's happening," she said. They rushed back into the corridor. Overhead, speakers crackled. A panicked Vought voice blared. "All personnel, lock down. Now!" "Repeat, lock down. Now!" Huey's heart dropped. "What is it?" Frenchie glanced at a monitor in the hallway. Live camera feeds popped up. A lab room, shattered glass, blood on white tile, scientists running. Something huge moved through the lab like a storm in a cage. It was not Frieza, it was something Vought had made. The shape slammed into the camera's view, tall, twisted, fast, skin that looked half-burned, half-armored, eyes like bright coals, muscles that moved wrong, like they were too strong for the bones. It hit a wall, and the wall cracked. Then it screamed. The sound made Huey flinch even through the speaker. Frenchie's voice went small. "Oh no," he whispered. "They did it. They made a new one." MM's face hardened. "An experimental V variant," he said. "They released it to try and distract Frieza." Annie stared at the screen. Sick. "It's going to get people killed," she said. Butcher's jaw tightened. "Vought making monsters to fight monsters," he muttered. "Same old." Then the facility shook. A real impact, felt through the floor. Screams echoed down the hall. The V variant had broken out of its lab section and was moving toward the trial floor, toward crowds. Huey's breath came fast. "We have to stop it," he said. Butcher shot him a look. "With what? Harsh language?" Annie's eyes flashed. "We help people get out," she said. "Now." MM nodded. "We move!" They sprinted down side halls toward the candidate waiting area. They found chaos. People shoved each other in narrow corridors. A Vought staffer screamed instructions nobody followed. Security guards fired useless rounds into the air, trying to look like they had control. Then the V variant burst through a wall. Dust and chunks of concrete exploded outward. The creature landed in the middle of the corridor with a heavy thud that rattled teeth. It swung one arm and sent a guard flying into a pillar. People screamed and ran. Huey froze for half a second, brain refusing to accept the shape in front of him. Then Annie stepped forward, hands glowing bright, and the corridor lit up with her energy. "Get out!" she shouted, voice cutting through panic. "Move!" She blasted the floor near the creature, not to kill it, but to force space, to push it back from the crowd. The creature skidded, snarling, claws scraping tile. Kimiko moved fast, grabbing a terrified woman and pulling her into a side hall, then turning back toward the chaos with a fierce look. MM dragged a group of candidates toward an exit stairwell, barking orders like a sergeant. "Go! Go! Don't stop!" Frenchie shoved doors open, guiding people through. Butcher watched the creature with a grim expression. His hand tightened around the stolen scouter in his pocket. He felt the irony like a sour taste. They came to steal, and now they were doing hero work. The V variant lunged at Annie. Annie fired a burst at its face. It barely flinched. It grabbed her by the arm and yanked her forward with brutal strength. Annie grunted, teeth clenched, trying to pull free. Kimiko charged, slamming into the creature's side. The V variant stumbled, surprised by the hit, and turned its glowing eyes toward Kimiko. For a moment, it looked like it recognized another monster. Then it swung. Kimiko took the blow and flew into the wall, cracking it, then dropped to one knee, already healing, already trying to rise. Huey's chest tightened. He started forward without thinking. MM caught him by the collar. "No," MM snapped. "You'll die." Huey's eyes were wild. "We can't just—" Butcher cut in, voice low. "We don't need to," he said. Huey looked at him. "What?" Butcher pointed upward. The air above the corridor shimmered, like heat rising. Then Frieza floated into view from the ceiling corridor opening, calm as ever, as if he had been called to fix a broken printer. He took in the scene in one glance, the broken walls, the screaming humans, the raging creature, the panicked security. His expression shifted into mild annoyance. "This," Frieza said, "is inefficient." The V variant roared and leapt at him, launching upward with insane force. Frieza lifted one hand. The creature stopped midair, frozen like a bug trapped in amber. Its limbs jerked uselessly. Its roar turned into a strangled noise. Everyone in the corridor went silent. Even the screaming paused. The shock was too big. Frieza drifted closer, eyes cool. He examined the creature like a mechanic looking at a damaged engine. "You made this?" Frieza asked, glancing at a terrified Vault scientist hiding behind a doorframe. The scientist shook his head violently, unable to speak. Frieza sighed. "Of course you did," he said. "You panic, so you build ugly tools." He turned back to the creature. Then, with a tiny flick of his finger, he crushed it. Not into gore, not into a mess. He compressed it like squeezing a can. The V-variant's body folded inward, bones and armor-like growths collapsing into a tight, dense ball. The sound was sickening, like metal bending and stone cracking. Then it stopped. Frieza held the compacted mass in the air for a moment, then tossed it aside down an empty hallway. It crashed through 2 walls and disappeared into a storage room with a final heavy thud. Silence hung over the corridor. People stared at Frieza with wide eyes. He had ended the disaster in 2 seconds, not like a hero, like a ruler removing a nuisance. Frieza looked at the crowd and frowned. "Clean this up," he said. "Return to your places." Annie stood stiff, breathing hard, arms sore where the creature had grabbed her. She stared at Frieza, disgust and fear mixing in her chest. Frieza noticed her glowing hands. He tilted his head. "You," he said. Annie's stomach dropped. She forced her shoulders back. Frieza floated closer. "You are one of Vogt's assets," he said. "Starlight." Annie froze. He knew her name. Of course he did. Vought's files were open to him. "Your power is decorative," Frieza said. "Not cruel, just honest. But your influence may be useful." Annie swallowed. "I don't work for you," she said. Frieza smiled faintly. "Everyone works for someone," he replied. "You will learn." Annie's hands glowed brighter in anger. But before she could speak, a new sound cut through the corridor. A sharp, sonic boom, a red and blue blur. Homelander arrived. He hovered at the far end, eyes blazing, cape snapping. He looked at the crushed walls, the injured people, the terrified faces. He looked at Frieza. His expression was wrong, too controlled, too calm. Annie felt a chill. Homelander spoke, voice loud enough for cameras that weren't even there. "You caused this," he said. Frieza blinked. "I ended it," he said. Homelander's smile twitched. "You're a threat," Homelander said, "and I'm done letting you walk around like you own the place," Butcher muttered under his breath. "Oh, here we go." Homelander shot forward, faster than before. Rage sharpened into something desperate. Frieza did not move. Homelander's fist slammed into an invisible wall inches from Frieza's face again. Homelander roared and fired heat vision at full force. The beams hit Frieza and did nothing. Frieza's eyes narrowed slightly, more annoyed than threatened. Then Frieza lifted his hand and squeezed. Homelander's body froze midair, trembling, muscles locked. Homelander's eyes widened. His breath hitched. Frieza floated closer until their faces were inches apart. In the corridor, people watched like they were witnessing a natural disaster. Frieza spoke softly, almost kindly. "You chose the worst moment," he said. Homelander's jaw shook as he tried to speak. "I am Homelander." Frieza smiled. "Yes," he said. Still loud. He turned his head to look down the corridor at the crowd of candidates and staff. He raised his voice slightly so everyone could hear. "This is what happens when you let a mascot believe he is in charge," Frieza said. Homelander's face flushed with shame and fury. Frieza flicked his wrist. Homelander slammed into the floor hard enough to crack tile. Frieza did not stop. He lifted Homelander again and held him suspended upside down like a hanging poster. Homelander's cape draped toward the ceiling. His eyes blazed, but he could not fire. Frieza glanced around like he was addressing a classroom. "This is an evaluation," he said, "and he has failed." Somewhere, a Vault camera drone appeared, buzzing into the corridor, drawn by the noise. It hovered, recording. Ashley was not there, but the camera meant the world would see. Homelander's throat bobbed. He swallowed hard. Frieza leaned in close to Homelander's ear. His voice dropped low again. "If you try to embarrass me," he whispered, "I will make you useful in other ways." Homelander's eyes widened in raw fear. Frieza released him. Homelander fell, caught himself at the last second, and hovered shakily, trying to recover dignity. Frieza turned away from him as if bored. "Continue the trials," Frieza said, "and someone remove this debris." He floated down the hall, leaving Homelander behind, in a corridor full of witnesses. Annie watched Homelander's face. She had dreamed of seeing him humiliated. But this was not justice. This was a bigger bully proving he could. Huey's hand found Annie's sleeve, gentle, grounding. He whispered, "We need to go." Annie nodded, jaw tight. Butcher's eyes stayed on Frieza as he drifted away. The man looked pleased, like he had fixed a messy situation without breaking his schedule. Butcher's mind spun. Frieza cared about order, about ranks, about obedience. That was a weakness, not a physical one, a human one. And Butcher knew how to mess with human weaknesses. tugged the team toward a side exit. "Move," he said. "Now." They slipped away with the crowd, faces down, blending into the panic. In Butcher's pocket, the scouter sat heavy, silent and priceless. And in the distance, the world kept spinning under a new ruler who did not need to shout to be heard. Frieza only had to smile, and everyone listened. 2 weeks after the carrier fight, the world started to act like fear was normal. People still went to work. They still bought coffee. They still argued in traffic. But every street had new posters, not just vote posters. Now the posters had a second logo beside the vote V, a smooth purple symbol that looked like it belonged on a spaceship. Vought called it a partnership. The news anchors called it stability. Most people called it what it was, a leash. On TV, Ashley Barrett stood under bright studio lights with a smile that never reached her eyes. "Lord Frieza has agreed to a temporary protection agreement," she said, voice shaking just a little. "This ensures safety while our leaders coordinate a long-term solution." Behind her, a graphic read, "Earth Security Restructure, Week 1. Results. There were bullet points, like a business report. Curfews in high-risk zones, superhero deployment reorganized, enhanced support staff. Recruitment open." Ashley's lips formed the words, but her mind screamed them. At the bottom of the screen, another line scrolled. Compliance deadline, 5 days remaining. In a crowded apartment across town, Huey watched the broadcast with the volume low. The safe house had changed since the day they stole the scouter. Now it had maps on every wall, emergency routes, names of shelters, safe phone numbers written in marker on a whiteboard, and on the kitchen table, wrapped in a towel like it was a sleeping animal, sat the alien device, the scouter. Frenchie treated it like a miracle and a bomb at the same time. He had figured out how to power it without making it scream, how to listen without shouting back. Not perfectly, not safely, but enough. Huey leaned closer as the scouter gave a soft, electronic chirp. A thin, sharp voice filled the room. Earth Division report. Recruitment yield below quota. Local assets show emotional instability. Request guidance. Huey felt his stomach twist. They were talking about humans like numbers. On the other side of the room, Mother's Milk paced slowly, phone to his ear. He spoke in a quiet, controlled voice, the kind he used when he didn't want panic to spread. "Yeah," said. "We're moving them tonight. 2 families, 3 blocks away. Keep the van ready." He ended the call and looked at Huey. "Anything new?" Huey nodded, swallowing. "They're calling it Earth Division," he said, "like we're a branch office." Butcher sat on the couch with a beer he hadn't touched. He looked almost relaxed. Almost. His eyes weren't. "They love their little labels," Butcher muttered. "Makes it feel tidy." Annie stood near the window, watching the street below. Starlight didn't wear her costume anymore unless she had to. It was too easy to spot, too easy to turn into a headline. Outside, a group of teenagers filmed a TikTok dance in front of a new Frieza poster. They laughed like nothing mattered. Annie's jaw tightened. "They're adjusting," she said. "That's what people do." Huey whispered. "That's what scares me." Frenchie tapped a key on his laptop and pointed at the scouter. "Listen," he said. The device chirped again. "Lord Frieza requests weekly performance reviews. All enforcers must attend. Failure will be corrected." Butcher's mouth twitched. "Performance reviews," he repeated. "This bloke really is running a planet like an office." MM's eyes stayed hard. "That means a pattern," said. "A schedule." Huey looked up. "And schedules can be used," Huey said quietly. Butcher glanced at him, surprised. Then he smiled, small and sharp. "Look at you," he said. "Learning." Huey didn't smile back. "People are going to die if we mess up," he said. Annie turned from the window. "People are going to die if we don't do anything," she replied. Butcher leaned forward. "Right," he said. "So here's the question." He tapped the towel-wrapped scouter with one finger, like knocking on a door. "How do you make a space emperor feel annoyed?" In Vote Tower, Stan Edgar walked through halls that no longer belonged to him. They still had his name on the executive floor. His office still had his chair. His staff still jumped when he spoke. But now, every screen in the building had a second presence, a clean, hovering purple interface that only appeared when Lord Frieza wanted it to. Edgar entered the conference room, and the air cooled a few degrees. Frieza floated near the far end of the table, looking at a hologram of Earth. Red dots blinked over cities. Green lines marked supply routes. Numbers rolled beside them like a stock ticker. Ashley stood at the side with a tablet and trembling hands. Her hair was perfect. Her fear was not. Edgar sat down without being told. Frieza smiled at him like a man greeting a useful manager. "Governor," Frieza said. Ashley flinched. Edgar didn't. "I'm not a governor," Edgar replied calmly. Frieza's smile stayed. "You are," he said. "You simply haven't accepted it emotionally." Edgar met his gaze. "My job is to prevent chaos." Frieza nodded. "Excellent," he said. "Then meet your targets." He pointed at one blinking number. "Recruitment," Frieza said. "Too slow." Edgar kept his tone even. "Humans resist when pushed too fast." Frieza's tail swayed. "Then push them smarter." Edgar's eyes flicked to the map. "Your threats are driving panic," he said. "Panic reduces productivity." Frieza leaned forward slightly, interested. "So you want me to be gentler," he said, as if tasting the idea. Edgar didn't hesitate. "I want you to be efficient." Frieza's smile widened. "Ah," he said. "You speak my language." Ashley's tablet buzzed, and she nearly dropped it. Frieza glanced at her. "Ashley," he said softly. She straightened so fast it looked painful. "Yes, Lord Frieza." Frieza pointed at her tablet. "Read your report," he said. Ashley's mouth opened. No sound came out. She looked at Edgar like a drowning person. Edgar spoke without turning. "Ashley," he said. "Steady. Read." Ashley swallowed hard and forced the words out. compliance. Increases in areas where VOT relief teams distribute supplies, she said. People are more cooperative when they feel safe. Frieza nodded once. So fear works, he said. And comfort also works. He looked pleased, like he had discovered a new tool. Good, Frieza said. We will use both. Fear as the stick, comfort as the reward. Edgar watched him carefully. Frieza was learning. That made him more dangerous. Frieza continued, voice calm. Now, he said, we discuss your loud asset. Ashley's eyes darted to the door. She didn't want Homelander in the same room. Nobody did. Edgar kept his face neutral. Homelander is unstable, he said. Frieza smiled. Yes, he said, but he is useful. At that moment, the door opened. Homelander stepped in like a king arriving late on purpose. His suit was perfect. His smile was back. His eyes were not. He looked at Edgar first, then at Ashley, then at Frieza. He kept his voice smooth. You wanted to see me. Frieza floated a little closer, gaze gentle, almost friendly. Come, Frieza said. Sit. Homelander didn't sit. Frieza's smile sharpened. The air pressure shifted, just slightly. Homelander's jaw clenched, but he moved to the chair and sat down. Ashley stared at the floor. Frieza clasped his hands behind his back and began walking slowly around the table, hovering an inch above it, like a teacher circling a student's desk. Homelander, Frieza said, I have an offer. Homelander's smile widened. Too fast. Oh? He said. Frieza stopped behind him. Be my public champion, Frieza said. Be the face that tells the humans what to do. Homelander's fingers tightened on the chair arms. I already am the face, he said. Frieza leaned closer, voice low. Not anymore, he said. But you can be important again. Homelander's throat bobbed. Frieza continued, almost kindly. You crave worship, he said. So I will give you a stage, a uniform, a title. Frieza snapped his fingers, and a new slot appeared on the hologram. Supreme Enforcer. Homelander. Homelander stared at it. He wanted it. He hated that he wanted it. Frieza's tone stayed soft. In return, Frieza said, you obey. Homelander forced a laugh. And if I don't? Frieza's smile didn't move. Then you will become an example, he said. A lesson. Homelander's eyes flashed with rage. Then, just as quickly, they cooled. He remembered the carrier deck, the corridor, the helplessness. He swallowed his pride like poison. I'll consider it, Homelander said. Frieza nodded, satisfied. Good, he said. Your performance review is in 3 days. Homelander's smile twitched at the words. Frieza looked at Edgar again. You will prepare the event, Frieza said. I want maximum visibility. Edgar nodded slowly. Understood, he said. Homelander stood up, stiff. He looked at Frieza one more time, then turned toward the door. Frieza's voice followed him like a hook. One more thing, Frieza said. Homelander paused. Frieza smiled sweetly. If you are thinking about betrayal, he said, try harder. Homelander's shoulders tightened. He left without speaking. Edgar watched the door close. Then he looked at Frieza. I assume you said that on purpose, Edgar said. Frieza smiled wider. Yes, he said. I want him afraid of me, and I want him angry at you. Edgar didn't flinch. Why? Frieza's eyes gleamed. Because anger makes people predictable, he said, and predictable people are easy to manage. Edgar felt the cold truth settle in his chest. Frieza wasn't just strong, he was smart in the cruelest way. 3 nights before the performance review, Butcher got a message that didn't come through a normal phone. It came through the scouter. A soft chirp, then a clean, flat line of text on Frenchie's screen. Meet me alone. Docs. 2 by 2 am. Huey stared at it. "That's from him," he whispered. Frenchie nodded, pale. "It used his network," he said. "He is speaking into the scouter." MM swore under his breath. "He knows we have it." Annie's face went tight. "We should destroy it," she said. Frenchie shook his head fast. "No," he said. "It is our only ear." Butcher smiled. "Slow. He wants a chat," he said. "How polite." MM grabbed Butcher's arm. "No," he said. "You don't go alone." Butcher shrugged him off. "He said alone," Butcher replied. "And if we ignore him, he'll come to us." Huey's voice shook. "Or he'll erase a city to punish us." Butcher's smile faded. "Exactly," he said. Annie stepped closer, eyes fierce. "If you go," she said, "you don't make deals." Butcher looked at her, and for a moment there was something honest in his eyes. "I always make deals," he said quietly. "Question is whether I pay the price." He left at 1:30. MM watched him go with a look that said he already regretted it. Huey sat down hard, heart pounding. "We're really doing this," he said. Frenchie whispered, "We do not have choice." Annie stared at the towel-wrapped scouter. "Then we make sure he doesn't come back with a leash on his neck," she said. At the docks, the air smelled like salt and oil. A fog hung low over the water. Old cranes stood like skeletons. Butcher walked alone, hands in his coat pockets, face calm like he was heading to a pub. Inside, he was a knot of anger and focus. A faint purple glow appeared above the water. Frieza floated out of the fog like a ghost that didn't need to hide. He wore the same small smile. He looked clean, untouched by the cold night air. "You came," Frieza said. Butcher didn't bow. "You invited me," he said. "Bit rude not to show." Frieza's eyes narrowed slightly, amused. "You speak boldly for someone so fragile," he said. Butcher shrugged. "You're the one who wanted to talk," he said. "So talk." Frieza drifted closer until he hovered a few feet away. His tail swayed slowly. "I know who you are," Frieza said. Butcher's eyes flicked. "Do you?" Frieza smiled. "Billy Butcher," he said. "A man who hunts false heroes. A man with a very specific hatred." Butcher's jaw tightened. Frieza continued, calm as ever. "You stole my scouter," he said. "That was clever. And annoying." Butcher raised his brows. "Sorry," he said. "Not sorry at all." Frieza's smile sharpened. "Do not mistake my tone for weakness," he said. Butcher held his gaze. "Wouldn't dream of it." Frieza floated a little higher, as if considering Butcher from a new angle. "You are not like the others," he said. "You do not beg. You do not worship. You do not pretend." Butcher's voice went flat. "I don't have time for pretending." Frieza nodded once, almost respectful. "Then let's be direct," he said. He lifted one finger. Behind Butcher, the fog shifted. A figure appeared, hovering in the air like a prisoner held by invisible chains. Homelander. His arms were spread slightly, his body locked in place. His face was tight with rage and humiliation. His eyes snapped to Butcher. For a second, something electric passed between them. Butcher felt his breath catch. This was what he had wanted for so long. Homelander helpless. Frieza watched Butcher's face closely, like he was watching a chart climb. "I can give him to you," Frieza said. "I can remove him from my system. I can leave him available." Homelander's lips moved, but no sound came out. Frieza was controlling even his voice. Butcher forced himself to breathe. "And what do you want?" he asked. Frieza smiled. "Stability," he said. "Your little group causes friction. Friction wastes time. You can help reduce it." Butcher's eyes narrowed. "You want me as your fixer," he said. Frieza's smile widened. "Call it consulting," he said lightly. You know where corruption hides. You know how to break it. Butcher laughed once. Sharp. You want the bloke who hates tyrants to help you rule, he said. Frieza shrugged, almost casual. Hatred is energy, he said. I prefer to aim it. Homelander's eyes burned at Butcher, furious, pleading, both at once. Butcher's mind flashed through images. Becca. The years. The promise. He pictured himself walking away with Homelander broken behind him. He also pictured cities erased because he made the wrong deal. Frieza watched him like a patient fisherman. You want him, Frieza said softly. So take him. Accept. And I will give you what you crave. Butcher stared at Homelander. Then he looked back at Frieza. His voice came out low. You don't understand something, Butcher said. Frieza tilted his head. Butcher's eyes went cold. If I take him from you, Butcher said, then you're the one doing me a favor. Frieza blinked once. Butcher leaned forward slightly, words sharp and steady. And I don't take favors from monsters, he said, because favors come with chains. Frieza's smile faded for the first time, not into fear, but into something flatter. Interesting, Frieza said. Homelander's eyes widened a fraction. Butcher kept going because he had to. I want him, Butcher admitted, more than anything. But I'm not trading the world for it. Frieza studied him for a long moment. Then he smiled again, smaller. So you do have a line, Frieza said. How rare. He lowered Homelander slightly, still holding him. Frieza's voice stayed calm. Very well, he said. Then I will make a different offer. Butcher's chest tightened. Go on. Frieza lifted his finger again, and the air around Butcher felt heavier, like pressure building. You will return my scouter, Frieza said. You will stop interfering, and I will postpone my deadline. Butcher's eyes narrowed. And if I don't? Frieza's smile widened. Then I will remove a city, said, as if reading a reminder. And I will hunt you personally, for sport. Butcher's mouth tightened. He hated that Frieza could say it so easily. Butcher forced a shrug. You're welcome to try, he said. Frieza's eyes gleamed. Oh, he said. I will. He released Homelander. Homelander dropped through the air, caught himself, and hovered shakily. The moment his voice returned, he snarled, You! Frieza raised a finger, and Homelander's mouth snapped shut again. Frieza didn't look at him. He looked at Butcher. 3 days, Frieza said. At my performance review, I will show the world its new structure. He smiled like a man presenting a product launch. If you want to disrupt it, Frieza added, then do it. I enjoy seeing what breaks. Then Frieza turned and floated away into the fog, leaving Butcher standing alone with the taste of danger in his mouth. Butcher walked back to the safe house, with his fists clenched so tight, his nails cut his palms. He did not tell himself he was brave. He told himself he had bought time. And time was the only currency that mattered now. On the day of the performance review, Vought turned a stadium into a stage. Drones hovered in perfect formation. Giant screens showed Frieza's purple symbol beside the Vought V. The crowd was not there by choice. Some were paid, some were pressured. Some came because they wanted to believe the nightmare had rules. On the field, Supes stood in neat lines like soldiers. Some looked proud. Some looked sick. Homelander stood at the front in a modified uniform that looked like his, but not fully. It had Frieza's symbol on the shoulder. Homelander's smile was back. It looked like a mask glued on. In a luxury box above the crowd, Ashley sat with a fixed grin and dead eyes. Stan Edgar sat beside her, calm as stone. And above the field, floating where everyone could see him, Frieza smiled down like a king reviewing his army. He began to speak. His voice carried through every speaker. "Earth," Frieza said, "you have been disorganized. You have been ruled by lies and weak leaders." The crowd stayed silent, tense. Frieza continued, "That is over." He lifted a hand, and a hologram appeared above the field. A rank chart. Simple. Clean. Cruel. At the top, Lord Frieza. Below, Governor Stan Edgar. Below, enforcers, with names scrolling, including Homelander. The crowd gasped when they saw the titles. Some cheered, nervous and forced. Some cried. Frieza smiled wider. "I will reward obedience," he said. "I will punish disorder." He pointed at Homelander. "Your strongest asset will now serve under me," Frieza said, "as an example of loyalty." Homelander's jaw twitched. Frieza's eyes narrowed, pleased at the control. High above the stadium lights, on a rooftop 2 blocks away, the boys watched through binoculars and a hacked feed. Huey's hands shook. "He's really doing it," he whispered. "He's turning it into a show." Annie's face was pale. "This is how people accept chains," she said. Frenchie had the scouter open, wires running to a small device he had built from scavenged parts and bought junk. He had refused to explain the details, not because he didn't want to, because MM had told him not to. No step-by-step, no hero fantasies, just a plan. MM watched the streets around them. "We do it fast," he said. "Then we move." Butcher stared at the stadium. His eyes were locked on Homelander. "I swear," Butcher murmured. "He looks like he's choking." Huey swallowed. "What's the goal again?" he asked. Annie answered, steady. "We don't beat Frieza," she said. "We break his smooth control. We make him feel like ruling Earth is messy." Butcher's mouth tightened. "We make it expensive," he said. Frenchie nodded once. "Now," he whispered. He tapped the device. The scouter chirped. On Frenchie's screen, Frieza's network lit up with sudden alerts. Not one, dozens. A new energy spike, a massive one. Near the original tear in the sky. A shape, a threat. Something approaching. It was not real, but it looked real to the system that Frieza trusted. Down in the stadium, Frieza's eyes flicked for the first time. Not in fear, in irritation. He paused mid-sentence. The crowd murmured, confused. Frieza's gaze lifted toward the sky, as if he could sense the lie with his own instincts. For a heartbeat, Huey thought Frieza would ignore it. Then Frieza's smile tightened. He cared about control too much to ignore a question mark. Frieza raised one hand. The speakers cut off instantly. He floated higher, eyes locked on the distant clouds. The stadium held its breath. "Remain still," Frieza said. His voice now carried directly, not through microphones. "This is a test." Homelander looked up, and for a second, hope flashed across his face. Maybe Frieza was leaving. Maybe the leash would loosen. Frieza vanished, not flying away. Vanished. The air snapped, and he was gone in an instant. The crowd erupted into noise. Not cheers, not screams. A messy, confused roar. In the luxury box, Edgar's eyes narrowed slightly. He knew what this meant. Frieza had just proven a weakness, not physical, behavioral. He responded to threats to his control. On the rooftop, MM grabbed Frenchie's shoulder. "Now we move," MM said. Huey stared at the stadium. "What did we do?" he whispered. Annie looked sick. "We rang his alarm bell," she said. "Now we run before he comes back." Butcher didn't move yet. He watched Homelander down on the field. Homelander's head turned, scanning the sky, scanning the stadium, scanning the luxury box. He looked like a dog that smelled blood. And Butcher realized something with a cold clarity. If Frieza was gone even for a minute, Homelander might try to take the stage back. He might kill people just to feel big again. Butcher cursed under his breath. "We're not done," Butcher said. Snapped. "Yes, we are. Move!" Butcher pointed. "Look at him," Butcher said. "He's about to pop." Annie's eyes followed. She saw it too. Homelander's smile was gone now. His face had that sharp, hungry look. Huey whispered, "He's going to do something." Annie clenched her fists. "We can't let him," she said. Swore, "We don't have time for this." Butcher made the choice anyway. "We stopped the cape," he said. "Quick." They moved. Not into the stadium, not into the crowd. They moved to the edge of the outer service corridors where they had prepped an exit route. Frenchie kept the scouter alive, feeding the false alerts in bursts, just enough to keep Frieza's attention pulled for a few more breaths. Down on the field, Homelander launched upward. He didn't go toward the clouds. He went toward the luxury box. Edgar. Ashley. The cameras. Homelander hovered in front of the glass like a nightmare. Inside, Ashley screamed. Edgar didn't move. Homelander's voice boomed through the stadium as he punched through the glass and stepped inside. "You think you can label me?" Homelander snarled. Ashley sobbed. Edgar looked at Homelander like he was a problem on a report. "Homelander," Edgar said calmly, "this is not the time." Homelander's eyes flared. "It's the perfect time," he hissed. "He left. He's not here. And I am done being managed." The crowd watched in horror. Phones were already up. Drones buzzed closer. Homelander grabbed Edgar by the collar and lifted him off the floor. Ashley screamed louder. On the rooftop, Annie's face went pale. "He's going to kill Edgar," she said. Butcher's jaw tightened. "Then Frieza comes back and burns the whole place," he said. "Either way, people die." Huey's voice shook. "We have to." Grabbed Huey's shoulder. "We're not running in there," said. "We can't fight him, and we sure as hell can't fight Frieza." Annie's eyes hardened. "Then we distract him," she said. She didn't ask permission. She moved. Annie sprinted down the stairwell, fast and silent, and reached a maintenance corridor that opened into a side tunnel near the luxury boxes. Huey followed, because he always did when Annie moved like that. Cursed, and followed too, because he wouldn't let Huey die alone. Butcher stayed back with Frenchie, watching the scouter feed like it was a heartbeat monitor. "Keep him busy," Butcher muttered, "just long enough." In the tunnel, Annie's hands glowed as she stepped into the open. "Homelander!" she shouted. Homelander's head snapped toward her. His eyes burned with rage. Edgar dangled in his grip, calm but stiff. Homelander smiled. It was ugly. "Annie," he said, "look at this. The real power is back." Annie's voice stayed steady, even as fear tried to choke her. "Drop him," she said. Homelander laughed. "Or what?" he asked. Annie raised her glowing hands. "Or I tell the whole world the truth," she said. "I tell them you're scared." Homelander's smile faltered for half a second. Then his rage surged again. "Shut up," he hissed, and he threw Edgar across the room like a doll. Edgar hit a wall and slid down, coughing, alive. Ashley screamed his name. Homelander moved toward Annie. Huey stepped in front of her without thinking. "No," Huey said, voice shaking. "Stop." Homelander stared at Huey like a bug that had learned to speak. Then he leaned in, smiling. "You're brave," Homelander whispered. "That's adorable." Homelander lifted his hand, and the air snapped. Frieza appeared, right between them. The stadium went dead silent. Frieza's face was smooth, but his eyes were cold. He looked at Homelander. Then he looked at the broken glass, the injured governor, the screaming Ashley, the terrified crowd. He looked at Annie and Huey. His gaze settled on them for a heartbeat longer than it should have. And in that pause, Huey realized something awful. Frieza wasn't surprised Annie was here. He was collecting facts. He was building a file. Frieza turned back to Homelander. You lasted, Frieza said softly. Less than 1 minute. Homelander's mouth opened, furious, desperate. They? Frieza lifted one finger. Homelander froze mid-word. Frieza floated closer and smiled, small and sharp. I gave you a title, Frieza said, and you still behaved like a tantrum. Homelander's eyes burned. Tears threatened at the corners, not from sadness, from humiliation. Frieza looked out at the stadium crowd and raised his voice. Earth, Frieza said, observe your hero. This is why I am necessary. He turned back to Homelander. Punishment, Frieza said, like reading a policy. Frieza flicked his wrist. Homelander slammed into the floor so hard the tile cracked. Frieza held him there, face down, pinned by invisible force. Homelander strained and shook and could not rise. Frieza didn't kill him. He didn't need to. He made him small. Frieza's gaze shifted to Annie and Huey again. Leave, Frieza said calmly, as if he had known they would appear. Before I decide, you are part of today's lesson. Annie grabbed Huey's arm and pulled him back. Dragged them into the tunnel. They ran. Behind them, Frieza's voice filled the stadium again, smooth and controlled, as he repaired the narrative he cared about more than anything. Order. On the rooftop, Butcher watched the feed go steady again. Frenchie's hands shook as he powered down the scouter device. He saw, Frenchie whispered. He saw something. Butcher's jaw tightened. Yeah, he said. And he came back faster than I'd like. and the others burst back onto the roof a minute later, breathless. Annie's face was pale, but her eyes were hard. We broke his perfect show, she said. Butcher nodded slowly. For about 20 seconds, he replied. Huey swallowed. Did it matter? He asked. Butcher looked at him, then at the stadium, then at the scouter wrapped in its towel. It matters, Butcher said, because now he knows Earth won't stay quiet. MM's voice was low. And now he knows who we are, said. Butcher's mouth twisted. Good, he said. Let him know. Annie stared toward the stadium, where Frieza hovered like a crown above the field. He's not leaving, she said. Butcher's eyes stayed cold. No, he agreed. But we just taught him something. Huey whispered. What? Butcher answered with a simple truth. This planet isn't easy, he said. And tyrants hate hard work. Frieza finished his speech. The crowd clapped because fear told them to. Vought drones captured the angles that made Frieza look noble and Homelander look obedient. For the cameras, the new order looked clean, but under the surface a crack had formed. Frieza had felt it, and Edgar had seen it too. Back in the broken luxury box, Edgar coughed and straightened his tie with shaking hands he refused to show anyone. Ashley sobbed quietly beside him. Edgar looked out at the crowd, then up at Frieza. And for the first time, Edgar allowed himself one dangerous thought. If Frieza could be distracted, even briefly, then Frieza could be managed, not defeated. Managed. That was enough to build a future around. Frieza turned in the air, as if he could sense the thought, and smiled down at Edgar like a man approving a difficult employee. Edgar did not look away. Somewhere far from the stadium, the scouter sat wrapped in a towel again. It chirped softly, and the war for Earth's soul moved into a new phase. Not a war of fists, a war of control. Night fell on the city like a blanket that couldn't hide anything. In the safe house, the lights stayed low. Everyone spoke quietly, like Frieza might hear through walls. Huey sat at the kitchen table with a cup of water he hadn't drunk. His hands were still shaking. Annie sat across from him, elbows on the table, staring at nothing for a long moment. Cleaned a small cut on his knuckle and tried to pretend it was just another day. Frenchie checked the scouter twice, then 3 times, then wrapped it tighter, like that would change anything. Kimiko sat near the window, eyes on the street, listening to the city breathe. Butcher stood by the sink, arms braced on the counter, head down. For once, he didn't look like he had a joke ready. Huey finally broke the silence. "If we can't beat him," Huey said, voice small, "what are we doing?" No one answered right away. The question hung there, heavy. Annie looked at Huey, eyes tired but steady. "We're keeping people alive," she said. "One night at a time." Huey swallowed. "But it feels pointless," he admitted. MM's voice came out calm, but firm. "It's not pointless," MM said. "It's what keeps us human." Huey looked at Butcher. He needed the worst person in the room to say something honest, because that's how scared he was. "Butcher?" Huey asked. Butcher didn't move for a second. Then he spoke, voice rough. "You know what he wants," Butcher said. "He wants everyone to stop trying. He wants you to look up at the sky and decide your life ain't yours anymore." Huey's throat tightened. Butcher turned around slowly. His eyes were red, but not with tears, with anger that had nowhere to go. "So we keep trying," Butcher said, "even if it's small, even if it's ugly, because someone has to." Huey whispered, "Even if we lose." Butcher's mouth tightened into something almost like a smile. "We lose when we quit," he said. Annie exhaled slowly. She looked at the scouter wrapped on the table like it was a snake. "He threatened a city," Annie said softly. "He can do it. We all know that." MM nodded once. "Yeah," MM said. "And we also know something else." Huey looked up. "What?" MM's eyes held a steady fire. "He cares about order," MM said. "He cares about looking in control." Frenchie nodded, nervous. "He came back because of an alert," Frenchie said. "He did not ignore it." Annie leaned forward. "That means we can pull him," she said. "Not forever. Not safely. But sometimes." Huey's heart thudded. "So we keep pulling," he said. Kimiko's hand touched Huey's shoulder for a moment. A quiet agreement. Butcher looked at the group, and for a second, he seemed surprised they were still here. Then his face hardened again. "Right," Butcher said. "We make the tyrant's job miserable." Outside, a distant broadcast echoed from a neighbor's TV. Frieza's voice, calm and smooth, speaking about stability and progress. The words sounded clean. The world underneath them wasn't. Huey stared down at his hands and finally took a sip of water. It tasted like metal. He didn't know if it was fear or the city's pipes. He didn't care. He looked up and met Annie's eyes. "Okay," Huey said. "One night at a time." Annie nodded. "One night," she agreed. Across the city, high above the streets, Frieza floated in a quiet room inside Vault Tower that had been emptied for him. No posters, no people, no noise, just clean walls, a view of the city, and a hologram of Earth turning slowly in the air. A file hovered beside it. Earth, status report. Under it, notes. Value, medium-high resistance, persistent local management, acceptable loud asset, unstable saboteurs. Interesting. Frieza smiled as he read the last word. Interesting. He liked interesting things. They made time pass faster. He raised one finger and added a final note to the file. Observe. Apply pressure in measured doses. Do not overbreak the toy. Frieza stared out at the city lights. He could erase them. He could own them. But now he also knew something else. This planet would not stay quiet. And somewhere deep inside him, under the pride and cruelty, that truth entertained him. Frieza smiled wider. Then he turned off the hologram with a simple gesture, as if closing a report. Outside, the city continued. People slept, people cried, people planned. And in a small safe house, a group of ordinary, stubborn humans prepared to keep fighting a god. Not with strength, with refusal, with nerve, with the simple, dangerous idea that life was still theirs to defend.